Hello guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Please don't forget to like, subscribe and share. My name is Yash and today we are going to react to the video called How India is Trapping China with its Military Strategy by Think School. Please go and support the original creators. The link is down in the description. Also, please don't forget to follow me on my social media. The link is also down in the description. For any new recommendations, you can leave them down in the comment section or even DM me on Instagram. Now let's get back to the video and we'll give our review later.
विस्तारवाद का युग समाप्त हो चुका है। ये युग विकासवाद का है।
Troubles began as early as 2013 when China expanded its Belt and Road Initiative. Massive construction projects in Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and the Maldives caused unease in Delhi.
If you ask me, is our relationship normal today? My answer to you is no, it is not.
China is clearly becoming a much stronger military power.
India has also stepped up its participation in the Quad, which is a group of 4 countries, including the US, Australia, and Japan.
Hi everybody, in the past 3 episodes of the Geopolitical series, we saw how China started with something called the Belt and Road Initiative to conquer the world trade. Now just to give you a quick recap, firstly, China strategically used Djibouti, Sri Lanka, Myanmar and Pakistan's weak economic situation to surround India. Secondly, China spent billions of dollars into building oil refineries, high-speed cables, railway lines and even gas pipelines to build an alternate trade route around India. And lastly, China is building an extremely strategic railway line from London to China and another railway line from China to Iran, passing through Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, finally ending at Tehran in Iran. This is how China is literally building its own trade route to become an economic superpower, and in this process, China intends to surround its rivals like India and eventually gain military and economic advantage over the United States. This is what we have covered until now. Now, when China is doing so many things, India is obviously not a saint to keep quiet and let China become stronger, right? So the question over here is, what exactly is India doing to tackle the security implications of the Belt and Road Initiative? What is India's strategy to face China in case of a military conflict? And lastly, what are the study materials to help you understand India's geopolitical moves better? This video is brought to you by Wintwealth, but more on this at the end of the video. The answer to this lies in a very important quote by a historian named Alfred Thayer. In his theory of sea dominance, Alfred Thayer said that whoever conquers the Indian Ocean will dominate the whole of Asia. So let's try to understand why is the Indian Ocean so important in geopolitics. Well, if you look at the world map, you will see that the Indian Ocean region consists of 28 countries spanning across 3 continents and covers 17.5% of the global land area. These countries include 21 members of an association called the Indian Ocean Rim Association. This includes major nations like Australia, Bangladesh, India, Indonesia, Iran, Kenya, Malaysia, Oman, Singapore, South Africa, Sri Lanka, Thailand, UAE and Yemen. Then there are 7 others who are not a part of this association, which includes Brunei, Cambodia, Maldives, Myanmar, Pakistan, Timor-Leste and Vietnam. And this region is home to over 35% of the world's population, which is around 2.6 billion people. Now, if you notice something very peculiar about all these nations that I stated, you will realize that the Indian Ocean region is home to some of the fastest growing countries in the world. Secondly, it is one of the most strategic regions in the world, which falls at the crossroads of the global trade itself. The Indian Ocean connects the international economies in the North Atlantic to the Asia-Pacific region, and secondly, the major sea routes that connect the Middle East, Africa and East Asia with both Europe and America also lie in the Indian Ocean itself. And what is absolutely mind-boggling about the Indian Ocean is that 80% of the entire world's maritime oil trade flows through just 3 narrow passages of the Indian Ocean. These passages are at the Strait of Hormuz, Strait of Malacca, and the Strait of Bab el Mandeb. These points are what we call as choke points, as in, if you choke these points, the major part of the world trade itself will come to a standstill. If this is very clear to you, let's understand these choke points better. The Strait of Hormuz is a strait between the Persian Gulf and the Gulf of Oman. The Strait of Malacca, as you know, is this place between the Malay Peninsula and the Indian Ocean island of Sumatra. The Bab el Mandeb is a strait between Yemen on the Arabian Peninsula, Djibouti, and Eritrea in the Horn of Africa. This strait connects the Red Sea to the Gulf of Eden. And apart from these three choke points, we have four more, which are the Mozambique Channel, the Suez Canal, the Sunda Strait, and the Lombok Strait. Now, if you remember from our previous episode, China has very clearly entered very close to all these choke points. To establish dominance over the Strait of Hormuz, China has the Gwadar port in Pakistan on a 40-year lease. And it also has its infrastructure and railway lines to Iran. To establish dominance over the Strait of Bab el Mandeb and the Suez Canal, China has debt-trapped Djibouti to build its naval base. And then, to capitalize on the Strait of Malacca, Sunda Strait and the Lombok Strait, China has made strategic alliance with Indonesia to build its infrastructure projects. And if you go through the details of the Chinese relations very closely, you will see that China has already established very close relations with the Mozambique government and has established control over a port called the Dar es Salaam port in Tanzania. So in short, the world trade can be stopped within a jiffy if you have control over these choke points in the Indian Ocean. And at the same time, if you do not have control over these points, your enemy can block your trade in no time. And quite evidently, China has slowly extended its dominance over all these choke points. This is the reason why the Indian Ocean is an extremely crucial region with respect to maritime trade, and more importantly for India because of China. But the story does not end here. Apart from maritime trade routes, the Indian Ocean contains some of the most precious resources in the world. In fact, a large portion of the resources of the Indian Ocean is yet to be explored. And it is said that 16.8% of the entire world's reserves and 27.9% of natural gas reserves are in the Indian Ocean itself. And this is where the Indo-China conflict comes in.
The string of pearls theory, very simply, is that China is trying to encircle India with a number of naval bases in surrounding countries in such a way that it's like a string of pearls around your neck, which the Chinese can then tighten to choke you and choke your neck.
There is a Cold War that is created between India and China.
The string of pearls theory has been discussed for more than a decade, and the Ukraine crisis has renewed interest in the subject.
My answer to that has always been, even if they're trying to do it, which is debatable, I would say that India has a fairly robust neck and that is not so easily strangled.
China has very strategically emerged as one of the most important trading partners of the Indian Ocean region, and it accounts for 16.1% of its total goods trade as of 2017. And like we saw in the Belt and Road video, in the past 2 decades, China has been building infrastructure projects in Sri Lanka, Myanmar, Pakistan and Djibouti. Why? Because all of these regions fall in the trade route of China's oil imports and their exports to Africa, Middle East and Europe. So we have the Gwadar port in Pakistan, Hambantota port in Sri Lanka, Djibouti's naval base and even Myanmar's Quake Phu port. This is what is being called as the strings of pearls theory. Now the burning question over here is, what exactly is India doing to tackle it? Well, instead of openly and boldly announcing its strategy like China, India has been slowly and steadily operating in a stealth mode with something called the necklace of diamonds strategy. To understand this, let's take a look at the list of strategic bases India has set up with partner countries as well as the various trade agreements that India has signed. And by the way, you must have seen a lot of people who often criticize the Prime Minister saying that he's wasting India's money by taking a world tour. Well, for those of you, here's why the Prime Minister of India spends countless hours in traveling all around the world.
हम अपने देश की अखंडता और संप्रभुता के साथ समझौता नहीं करते हैं। जब भी समय आया है, हमने देश की अखंडता और संप्रभुता की रक्षा करने में अपनी शक्ति का प्रदर्शन किया, अपनी क्षमताओं को साबित किया। चाहे स्थिति कुछ भी हो, परिस्थिति कुछ भी हो, भारत पूरी दृढ़ता से देश की एक एक इंच जमीन की, देश के स्वाभिमान की रक्षा करेगा। हमारे लिए भारत की अखंडता और संप्रभुता सर्वोच्च है और इसकी रक्षा करने से हमें कोई भी रोक नहीं सकता।
First, let's start from the counter for China's strategic placement at Gwadar and Djibouti. For this, India has very cleverly placed its base over here in Oman, and here's where we have the Dakum port. The Dakum port is where India's important crude imports flow from the Persian Gulf. This place is strategically located on the southeastern seaboard of Oman and is overlooking both the Arabian Sea and the Indian Ocean. On top of that, it is also straddled along the critical sea lanes in the Arabian Sea and the Gulf of Eden. And all thanks to India's relation with Oman, we have military access to this port, which makes it a great defense point. Then we come to this region that is close to the second choke point, which is the Mozambique Channel. In 2015, Modi ji signed an agreement with the Seychelles president to develop a place called the Assumption Island for military use. But unfortunately, after this deal was done, there were a lot of protests, there was a change in government, because of which this diamond as of now is in a shaky situation. Then we come to perhaps the most important choke point of all, which is the Strait of Malacca and the other two choke points right beside it. Here's where we have the Changi Naval Base, wherein in 2018, Modi ji signed an agreement with the government of Singapore. This agreement has provided direct access to the Indian Navy itself. So while sailing through the South China Sea, the Indian Navy can refuel and rearm its ship through this base. This is followed by the Sabang port in Indonesia. And again, in 2018, India got military access to Sabang port, which is located right at the entrance of the Malacca Strait. So theoretically, we have a firm grip over the Strait of Malacca. And if you remember from our China's BRA video, 70% of China's oil supply and 60% of their trade passes through the Strait of Malacca. So choking this point is like choking the Chinese economy itself. After that, we have the Indo-Vietnam Diamond, and long story short, we have historically had a great relationship with Vietnam. We supply some of the most important defense equipment to Vietnam, and we have signed a comprehensive strategic partnership with Vietnam in 2016 itself. Then we have our important diamond in Japan. On 9th of September 2020, India and Japan signed something called the Acquisition and Cross-Servicing Agreement that would allow militaries of both these countries to exchange supplies and services on a reciprocal basis. So again, Japan and India can use each other's port as per their strategic requirements. And the best part about this point is that if you look at the map, you will see that it gives us a very close placement to the mainland of China itself. And then we have Mongolia, where Modi ji became the first Indian Prime Minister to visit, and more importantly, India has established a very strong relation with Mongolia by giving out a $1 billion credit to develop an air corridor for Mongolia. And lastly, we have the Chabahar port in Iran. And if you remember from our China video again, Iran is also a part of the Chinese BRI initiative, wherein they have a railway line from China to Iran, passing through Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan to finally ending at Tehran in Iran. So here's where India very cleverly understood the importance of Iran. So in 2015 itself, when Iran was facing crippling economic sanctions and diplomatic isolation, India agreed to develop a deep water port in Chabahar on the Gulf of Oman. And as a part of this deal, Modi ji visited Iran and signed the agreement worth $500 million to develop this port and related infrastructure. And if you see, it's not just strategic with respect to China's infra in Iran, but also very close to the Gwadar port in Pakistan. Now, if you connect all these points together on the world map, you will see that it's literally a necklace around China, and more importantly, they are strategically located points that can be used to counter the Chinese in case of any military conflict. Now, although the relations with all these countries is not as ideal as we would like, it is a very significant step to make sure that the dragon is not left completely loose. This is what India is doing to make sure that we are protected from the notorious Chinese moves. And this brings me to the most important part of the episode, and that are the study materials to help you understand India's geopolitical relations and strategy better. Before we move on, I want to thank our partners Vint Wealth for supporting our content. For full disclosure, Think School is also an investor in Vint Wealth. Vint Wealth is a wonderful platform by which you can invest in bonds of NBFCs with strong backers and earn 9 to 11% interest. Now, most of you might be investing in the stock market as a long-term investor. But if you want to make steady returns for a short-term goal, that's where Vint assets can come in very handy. The investment process is super simple. You can see the asset page over here that has detailed information about the asset. On the right-hand side, you can see a table by which you can determine how many units of the bond you want to buy. And finally, the payment process is also super easy. You can pay via UPI, net banking, or the Vint Wealth fund itself. And that's it, you are done. By investing in Vint Wealth, you can earn returns that are higher than FD and at the same time not as volatile as stocks. Always remember, you must also check out the risks explained on their website before deciding on your investment. Wind Wealth is backed by Zero Does Rain Matter, Kunal Shah, the CEO of Cred, and many more reputed investors. And you can check them out from the special link in the description. Moving on, the first document I am attaching comes from the International Relations and Strategic Studies Institute. This document explains the importance of the Indian Ocean, and this document will give you a very clear understanding as to why is Indian Ocean so important for the global economy. Secondly, I am attaching a document on the Belt and Road Initiative of China, which will give you a deeper understanding of what exactly is China trying to do. And for this, you can even check out our previous video. And lastly, I am attaching the super important Quad Summit fact sheet, which will teach you about the important relationship that we are forming with the US, Australia, and Japan. Read through this document very carefully, because it will give you a very deep understanding about how India and other nations actually collaborate together to actually tackle their common threats and to capitalize on their opportunity. So as citizens of India, using these documents, you will very easily be able to understand the international relations strategy of India to counter China and other threats. That's all from my side for today, guys. If you learned something valuable, please make sure to hit the like button in order to make YouTube Baba happy. And for more such insightful business and political case studies, please subscribe to our channel. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.
Amazing video. I learned a lot in this. Like, I didn't know about India's strategy to counter China. Like, I knew we were building like certain things I knew, but like a lot of it I had no idea. Like, no one, like, India China have kind of a conflict going on right now, but no one spoke about the fact that like China's economic choke point passes through literally India. Like, it's extremely near India. Like, India can screw them off in a jiffy like that. And also the diamond of necklace strategy to counter the Chinese string of pearl strategy, like by collaborating with the West more, participating in the Quad much more actively. Obviously it makes a major difference. And also, like, for example, like they spoke about the Chabahar port in Iran. Like, I always thought that it was a way for India to go to Central Asia, because India does not have good relations at all with Pakistan. And always, like, if you want to go to Afghanistan or Central Asia, we were dependent on them. So like, I thought it was an alternative to that, but it is a much larger strategic goal, much than that. So like, yeah, so like I feel that, you know, like because of the media and all, it's a lot, and the propaganda, like, it kind of creates a psychological impact on you that, you know, China is such a big country. It's like, you know, like, population wise we're almost the same, but like if you compare it in GDP terms or military terms or like, you know, financially, obviously China is like at least 5 to 6 times bigger than India today. So like, obviously makes a difference. But like, after showing this, I feel, you know, much more secure that, you know, like, my country is safe like that. You know, India is in a very much safe position with the correct leadership. So like, there's nothing to worry about. But obviously we cannot keep our guards down. We always have to keep our guards up. Like, we can't afford that in case of any military conflict or anything. But like, yeah, it's important so that, you know, China keeps, like, because they have this 5-finger thing where they believe that entire province of India is part of China and all of that. So yeah, so through this, you know, we can also prevent their aggression up in the north. So like, you know, if they do anything up in the north, we can open another thing down in the seas, which will be a significant blow to them. Because like, as they said in the video, like 70% of their oil supply and almost, I think, 60% or something like that. Don't count me on the figures, I might be wrong, but like a large percentage of their trade passes through the Malacca Strait, which is extremely close to Andaman Nicobar Islands. That makes a very much difference. And with the Sukhoi aircrafts and all of that, which has a range of like 3,000 kilometers, and if we put BrahMos on it, it's like game over. It's like, it's crazy. Because with that kind of military, military and all of that, and we can actually, you know, counter China in a major way. We need to just, you know, like, obviously it's not reached where it should be, but like, you know, we are working on it, and with partner, like with common interests, like mainly the West, obviously, because they have their own interests, India have their own interests, but like they're kind of, you know, merging with each other. So that's a good way to look at it, because like each and every country, they all are, they no one, because like as we see in geopolitics, no one has permanent friends or enemies, only their interests remain permanent. So like, yeah, like this, it's good, like we have a strong look east policy, like towards the ASEAN region, which is like, if you go back in history, culturally also they were part of India, and also like that. So like as we come more closer, economically we'll also benefit, and also strategically also we'll benefit. So it will be a win-win situation for both. I think we'll stop the video here right now, and thank you. Bye.